Welcome to LoTech Tuesdays by LoTech and Wild, the podcast for those who live their life unplugged and for those who want to. LoTech and Wild is a podcast brought to you by Valdez Adventure Alliance in Valdez, Alaska. We have guests that we learn from all around the world, and we invite anyone who is interested to come and visit the beauty of Valdez, Alaska. This week, I had the good fortune to talk to Rich Loftin from Valdez, Alaska, who is also the Valdez Fat Bike Bash 2022 chair. And he is a wonderful host. Check out his Instagram at LoftinRides_AK if you want to see some amazing photos. He's always told me he's more than welcome to bring anyone around Valdez by fat bike, by snow machine, by four-wheeler, side-by-side. So, it's just amazing. If you want to get a glimpse into how beautiful Valdez, Alaska is, definitely check out his Instagram, LoftinRides_AK. Thank you and enjoy this podcast. So how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. I see you got all your gear all back up in there. Did you just get in from playing outside?
Well, kind of. We just got like 30 inches of snow in 36 hours. So
wow.
I've actually been out shoveling, getting the driveway cleared out. And I had parked my two side-by-sides out there and they were just buried in snow. So I got them cleared off. And of course, you get them cleared off and it's like, I might as well take her for a rip, And I took the razor and went for a rip around town. And then I came back, got the Ranger cleared off, and then took the dogs and went and got some parts for the snowblower because I broke a shear pin last night.
Nice. Yeah, that must be heavy work even for a motorized method of clearing snow.
Yeah, it is, especially when it's like 30 inches deep. That's
a lot, for sure. Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I love it though. I miss the snow. I crave the snow. Every time I see somebody skiing or somebody snow machining or fat biking in the snow, my heart is just a little bit achy. So yeah. So whatever. Can you send some? Maybe?
I'll try. I hear that Texas people love the snow.
Yeah, it shut down the whole state in March, right? Whole state, no power, no water, no power. It was like emergency zone. So, yeah. Oh, I see a puppy is hiding. Is that Pippin?
Pippin and Willow.
And Willow.
Yeah, they're hiding in front of the heater.
Cuties. Sweet. So let's talk about Bike Bash.
All right.
Yeah. So, Fat Bike Bash, Valdez, Alaska, April 1st to the 3rd. Pretty excited about that.
Yep.
We got some changes going on.
Yep.
I've got on my list here, we've got a Fat 5. So it's like a 5-mile family fun type of ride. We've got a 10-miler. We've got a 20-miler this year. So like 2 laps, right? And then we've got the different categories. So men's, women's, and then open.
Oh.
Right?
Sure. What do you think the open will?
Well, some people don't care if they're so if like we're handing out medals or whatever, some people don't care if they're like in a co-ed group. That's the difference. If we really wanted to like make the registration for the Fat Bike Fest, like some of the other races that are out there, bike races that are out there, that we'd have age groups. We don't have age groups in this situation,
Right. Yeah. There's just not enough people. That's why I was just wondering. I kind of think that it'll be good to have that, but I think maybe when we see how many people show up, it may just be men and women's.
True.
But
true. Yeah.
I think that might end up how it goes. But I do think in the future, for an open type concept.
Yeah.
Once we get the people participating, might want to consider doing a a poker run as well, so that people that don't want to race, they could just take their time and go around and be for fun, and then of course the racers could be out there racing in their men or women's class.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people that want to come out and just ride the course that way too. I mean, a lot of the times, like, I remember like one of the last triathlon races that I ever did, I literally rolled out of bed on a Saturday and it was like 6 or something. And I was like looking at my phone and the little reminder came up, you have a triathlon this morning.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's like when stuff like that happens, you don't go out there to win anything, I mean, really,
right.
it's just for fun.
But that is the difference between a racer, right, and somebody who's not a racer, because a racer can be either like, okay, I'm going to prepare for this, or, oh, there's my alarm, and still not be intimidated and be able to get up and say, okay, I'm just going to hit this one and just have a good time.
I see.
That's still a racer mentality. There's just a lot of people out there still that they don't have that. The whole idea of a race kind of intimidates them. So
sure. I feel like,
how do you pull them in?
Yeah. Well, in my case, I think pretty much 100% of all of the races that I've ever done have been charitable. I don't think there's anything, whether it's a turkey trot or a triathlon. I think they've all had some charitable purpose. There's always something. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
well, you've got me beat. You're a better person than I.
Oh, that's probably not true. You probably just weren't aware of maybe who they were giving the money to. I don't know.
I mean, I've participated in some of those, but I've also participated in a lot of races where, pros are racing for money.
I see.
And,
yeah.
Amateurs are racing for a trophy. And then people like me are racing just to say, yeah, I finished.
Yeah, man. No, it's a big deal. You're right, to muster up the energy or the courage, or like, I mean, it faces you with the possibility of failure if you've never done it before. Some people, they need to have like the motivation to, like, maybe they're trying to lose weight or just change their habit structure, and having some sort of a goal at the end of it, like doing a 10-mile fat bike race is a reward, or like an end point or a milestone, So, yeah, no, it can be a really big deal. It can be very intimidating. You're right.
Yeah. I've always tried to tell people, my mentality has always been, coming from the motorized sector, was, it's better to race for one day than to be a spectator all your life.
Yeah, that's a nice way to look at it. Yeah.
Gives you that sense of accomplishment, just getting people to that point.
There's so much camaraderie too. I mean,
that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah. There's so much support that are out there for the people that are getting out there and doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you remember this year when we had the bike bash, there was somebody who she like came in right at the tail end of when we were having our like cutoff or whatever. She was expecting. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
And it was like so amazing that, like she's really exhausted, and but she didn't give up.
Yeah. Well, and the first year we did the Glacier XC race, we had a couple locals that raced, and one lady, it just kicked her butt, but she was bound and determined to finish. And I think she came in like maybe 20 minutes after the last person in last place. And when other racers saw her coming across the Glacier Lake to the finish, they actually, like 5 of them, rode out to her and cheered her on the rest of the way. And as she came across the finish line, hooting and hollering, and and people just a lot of support.
That's amazing. How cool is that? That's super.
Yeah, that's what it's all about right there.
Yeah. Well, you bring up an interesting curiosity too, like talk a little bit about like the start of the Fat Bike Bash and like a little bit about its history. And also an exciting new thing that's happening in 2022 is that we're having the extreme downhill, not at Thompson Pass, but at the East Peak Resort. So
Right, correct. Yeah, and it's just like any event, they a couple people came up with this idea of this Fat Bike Bash. I wasn't one of them. But of course, as an avid local fat biker,
yeah,
they
you're
pulled
like,
me
hey.
into it, and and I had to kind of advise them a little bit because they had some grand ideas, and our weather and our environment that we have here, it was kind of a learning experience on the front. But once again, like any event, right? You go in expecting, okay, we're going to try to do this, and this. It's a weekend thing. And then, Mother Nature says, no, you're not,
Yeah.
And shuts you down. And, it snowed like 5 feet and, 3 days over the weekend of the first Fat Bike Bash. And,
Wow.
So some of the ideas they had were great ideas, but just not logistically feasible. Right. And so then, after that kind of bust on a lot of things, then I started advising and, being a local myself, but, very familiar with the climate, the weather, the terrain, what you could do, what you can't do, what might work. I started advising them on things and helping them out. And that's why the second year, I started with them, the Glacier Cross Country Race. And that was a big success. And, the downhill actually worked out that year. But once again, I kept looking at that thinking, that's in Thompson Pass, it's just a real risky venue for that, in the fact that just the weather can come in and shut you down in a matter of minutes. I mean, it can just be nice 1 minute and the next minute, snowstorm blows over the mountaintops and you're done, so.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff. I can't imagine riding through like what looks like, when I look at the old photos, a foot or more of powder. Like how do you do that?
Yeah, and on a fat bike, it's not. I mean, you can take some glamour-gram shots,
right?
And it looks killer, but the reality of it is it's not for an event and for racing. That's not. It's not the show. You got to be realistic. So that's why, I was glad to be able to, hook you guys up with the East Peak fellers.
Yeah.
And, they're already packing a trail all winter long. They're, fat bike enthusiasts themselves.
Yeah.
Stoked on being able to hold the event there and help out. And with the weather, we can plan ahead and still make something happen because of the terrain they have and, the planning that we can put into it, and still kind of keep things on track.
For sure. And Nate is our cover photo guy doing his wheelie.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That was a great photo, that's for sure.
Yeah, he looked like he was really stoked. It looked like he was having a lot of fun riding down that hill. So
Yep, yeah. He's pretty sprung on things he likes to do. So good guy to hang around, when you're doing fun stuff.
For sure. And we should also make note that if anybody who wants to go but feels like the entry fee is cost prohibitive, that they are absolutely welcome to reach out to us and apply for a fee waiver.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. I mean, so what was really cool was this year there was a guy that came and he was just like, wanted to register for the extreme downhill. And he just was super chill about the whole thing and said, hey man, like, what's the refund policy? Because, I'm pretty tight on cash and I really want to do this. But if it doesn't go, I just want to make sure that, there's a refund policy. And I was like, of course, no problem at all. I mean, it's a different story when you have somebody that comes up to you and is just honest and chill like that. than when you have somebody that, registers for something willy-nilly and then they just change their mind. So, I mean, we might have like on the website or whatever the thing is, like a no refunds and for any reason, like we do for Ice Fest. But I mean, if there are extenuating circumstances, or if there's a high probability that something's going to get canceled, which Thompson Pass did get canceled because there was so much storming the night before, right?
Right.
I mean, yeah, just refunded those people. No problem.
Right. And that's really no different than like the other events that take place here, like the Valdez Mountain Man Hill Climb. When you register for that, I mean, you're in. If you bow out for any reason whatsoever, there's no refund.
Yeah.
But I can't even remember if they cancel, if they give refunds. They might if they cancel due to weather.
I've seen some events say no cancellation, even if we cancel.
Right.
There have been some events that I've seen do that, some 5Ks or whatever,
Right.
raining, pouring, and they say, well, we're not going to cancel unless there's lighting. Bam, there's lightning. All right, well, sorry, folks. Thanks. Have a great day. That's it.
Right.
So anyway, how have you been?
Been good. I've been, we had a kind of a snowless winter so far, just a little bit of winter. And so things froze up real nicely. So, about 3 weeks ago, I went out to the Valdez Glacier Lake and drilled the ice to see how thick it was. It was about 7 or 8 inches. So perfect to get going. So I started, putting some laps in around out there in the bird garden, scoping out some of the new treasures this year. And,
nice.
Kind of putting in my mind already, what the course might entail a little bit differently this year.
Okay.
Than last year, because everything changes, out there. In fact, in the summer, it changes daily, but once it locks in the ice, it stays. But it's definitely different than last year. So
explain that for listeners who might not know what you're talking about.
Well, what I'm talking about is the part of the cross country race that races across the Valdez Glacier Lake, where there's probably 100 icebergs from the size of a utility, a side by side or a four wheeler, to the size of a high rise complex. Not hot, not tall, but lengthwise, floating in the water, big enough you could land a plane on. There's hundreds of icebergs floating around in this glacier lake. And of course, they float around all summer long and they move. And then as soon as things start to freeze up, they lock in place. And so then there's all these icebergs out there. And of course, the weather, the rain, the wind, everything affects those icebergs and how they start to deteriorate. And sometimes they'll flip. And then, once they're frozen in place, then there's all these things that start to uncover themselves, like caves and tunnels and, just these natural treasures that can be enjoyed by people that have the gumption to go enjoy them.
Yeah, they're absolutely gorgeous. They are, like, in some areas, it's just like crystal clear. You can see right through the ice like it's glass,
Yep. And those are usually the areas that get wind, because that wind will polish that ice like a stone getting polished, or a diamond, or some kind of gem. And that's what really puts that shine and clearness, and then you can see in. And then other areas, of course, it gets, oxidized from sunshine and from rain. And then, of course, it's not as clear and as pretty. But yeah, it's those hidden little caverns and tunnels where it's all wind polished and frozen. It's just absolutely beautiful.
It is. It really is. And it's interesting too. I mean, the whole concept of a glacier, I have to admit, like, I watched this documentary that's been going around called The Alpinist, and the guy, I don't know, spoiler alert here, but like, he ends up going to Juneau after he does this, personal accomplishment that he wanted to do, I think in like Chile. And so he goes to Juneau, and then he doesn't check in, the next day. And he was with a local Alaskan climber, and the search and rescue helicopter went flying around, and they just saw this rope, like there was a crack in the snow, and there was like crevices, and some of these crevices. So this is why I ended up like doing a little research on some of these glaciers and these crevices, because I was just curious, like how deep are some of these things, They are freaking, some are thousands of feet deep.
Yes.
It's crazy.
So just so if anybody gets a little uneasy watching this, we'll put them at ease. We do not ride across or on the glacier itself proper. We ride on the lake bed, or the lake itself, I guess, which is frozen and has icebergs around. So there is no crevices that you could fall into.
Right.
You have to go up onto the glacier for that. And of course, if anybody comes to town and wanted to do that, they should. I highly recommend they go with somebody experienced.
Yes.
And I'd be down. I go up there all the time, and then because I know what to watch for, what to look out for, where to go.
Yes.
But still, I fat bike up the glacier 1 or 2 times a year. I'll go a few miles up the glacier and come back down, and it's just a beautiful ride. And I mean, it's just unbelievable scenery. And
I bet. Yeah. It's quite an intimidating thing. I mean, even to like cast my eyes upon it, it's like intimidating to me. And then when you think about like what a glacier is, just like this moving ice river in a way, it's just, and how it changes the geography really of our earth,
Yeah. And then of course, like you said, once you find out about crevices, then it changes your whole outlook on those. Well, it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
But being an Alaskan, we in the motorized sector, we ride glaciers all winter long, especially here in the Valdez area, because of our weather system that we have. We're able to do that. We get a lot of snow, a lot of wind. It fills in a lot of the stuff and bridges over. So there's a certain time of year that you can ride and go anywhere, and you don't really have a lot of worries. But there's a lot of places we go that if you flew over in the summer and you look down on it, you'd be like, oh, wow.
For real. And so there's also up north Alaska, there is an adventure race. And so I was watching that documentary on the adventure race, and I learned that there sometimes is running water underneath the glacier top. So if you fall into a crevice, you could get swept away by the moving water that's underneath it.
Yeah.
Is that the case up the Valdez Glacier?
No, not in the winter. In the winter, everything's pretty much frozen up. The only time that would really happen would be more of a summer time if you were up on the glacier, or springtime.
Yeah.
Once things freeze up, even under the even like under the surface of the glacier, everything freezes up. In fact, our glaciers around here, they have melt off that forms streams, rivers, creeks, and they flow out into the sound. Well, once winter really starts to set in and the temperatures drop below freezing, those creeks pretty much, they go down to nothing.
Huh.
They decrease in size, and they come down to just like a dribble, and then they freeze over, and they don't really have much flow, if any. Just a tiny, tiny bit that comes through.
Yeah. That's amazing. So like this is the when you take Shoop Bay Trail and you go out towards, that's the sound, right? That's there where all those black like river rocks are.
Yeah.
That's the sound. That's a part of the sound.
It's Port Valdez. That's still Port Valdez.
Okay. Yeah. That whole like rock bed of like those like fist size river stones they're pretty, they're like, it's like interesting too, that they're just like these black river stones. Maybe you'll see some striations in there, but they've been polished from the movement or whatever time it took for them to get there, and that also is just gorgeous riding, gorgeous fat biking, to be able to ride right there, like where the water is. It's just absolutely beautiful, so
yeah, especially for us when we're snowbound all winter long. You can take the groom trail down there to the beach on low tide and get out of the snow and on the beach, and it's not like the beaches of California or anything, or Texas, but it's a beach.
Oh, it's great. I love it. I think it's just absolutely gorgeous. It's so, pristine too. And I really appreciate that. Sometimes, not to badmouth any state, the beaches of Texas can be a little littery. I'm very much like a non-litterer. My friend that lives in Colorado, he travels for work sometimes, and he was up in Norway, and he messaged me, and he was just like, oh man, you would love it here. These guys separate all their recycling and do all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And they're composting. And he's like, I like to just take my can sometimes and just like pretend like I'm going to drop it into the garbage, just to raise their, hackles, and stuff like that. Yeah. It's so like, around here, sometimes you'll see a big truck driving around, and I swear to God, I saw this one guy. He had like a big gulp, just reached his arm out the window, and just like, it was half full, and just dropped it right out the window. I'm very much like a leave no trace kind of person. I'm like, So
I didn't think anybody did that kind of stuff anymore.
I know, right? Like, what year is this?
Yeah, right.
So going out to public places like that, and there's no trash can that's over there on the beach, right? It's just pristine and beautiful. You can tell that people care about it. And there's a field guide, actually, I should mention too. We got it up on the Valdez Adventure website, that in the summertime and springtime, now you'll be able to see like the plants that you can find off of Shoot Bay Trail. And Lynette did a really good job. She put the Yupik names also, and like if there was any sort of traditional purpose for the plant and stuff like that. So it's just an extra fun little thing that's on the Shoot Bay Trail sign now. So cool. Yeah. Don Bickley took the photos of the plants, so that was really nice. Is Jeremy going to come out, and our other local town photographer guy? Is he going to come out and do the Valdez Fat Bike Bash this year, you think?
I think if he does anything, he'll just provide support.
Like last year? That was fun.
Last year, race support. Yep, marking, sweeping, staking, pulling stakes, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal. There's a lot of work that goes into creating an event like this. And just the fact that you go out there and, create the trail, and you handmade the sled. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, they're not handmade. These are, what I'm using now is, they're called Otter Sleds. You can buy them. And, what I had done is I had adapted them a little bit and made PVC bike racks that you can slap in there when you're not grooming, if you want to haul bikes. And then you can put two fat bikes, one way, one the other, and you can tow them in the sled for when you want to go up places that, is kind of a hike and bike type place, or you would need a snowcat or a helicopter to get there. We can take them up on the sled. But you guys, the Valdez Adventure Lines also has a groomer that they had made, but I used to use that all the time. But okay. Other people are using that now on other trails, which is, we've kind of split off. I used to do everything myself. Mm-hmm. And now we've got a couple different volunteers that are helping out to, groom the Shoot Bay Trail, and then I'm taking care of the, the Glacier Lake itself, And then the city has now, kind of really gone more on the out of town trails than they used to. So they're with the big, piston bully, they're grooming out there and getting a lot more than they used to. So it's working out good.
Nice. What are these out of town trails? What do you mean by that? Where are those going?
So we have a couple different trail systems here in Valdez. One's the in-town trails, and they're, downtown, in town. You can just go right to the edge of town, get on them, and they're groomed and ready to go. And then we have what's called the out of town trails, where you have to drive out of town, probably about 5 miles. And then they have out of town groomed trails that go out towards, the Hogback Trail, which goes up the Hogback Glacier up on the mountain and goes around the base of that out towards the Valdez Glacier and, out towards Robe Lake and around over by the ball fields, gold fields. So
Very
all
cool.
in all, I think, Valdez is, the city themselves are grooming like 30 plus miles of multi-use trails all winter long.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. And that's
Yeah,
new this year?
no. They've been doing it, but they've ramped up. I mean, when I first started fat biking here, they didn't do that as much as they do now.
Gotcha.
But with being involved in the community and promoting and things like that, they've kind of they've upped their game, thankfully, and they're doing a lot more. And they see that they're getting used. They can see the tracks that are being made in there. And then, of course, I've been teaching fat bike etiquette to local people to make sure that, because they are multi-use trails, so we're going to make sure people are using the right tire pressure. They're not gouging out big trenches, going out there when it's soft and going right down the middle and running a trench when skiers want to come through. It's just coexisting with the other recreationalists and knowing ride to the side, right tire pressure, things like that. So
Awesome. Very cool.
yeah. The interesting thing too that I get kind of a kick out of, that, like you say with your buddy with the putting the trash almost in to hassle his buddies,
Yeah.
I like to heckle the Nordic skiing community worldwide.
Oh,
When I
no.
post a fat bike picture of freshly groomed corduroy with only my fat bike tire track in it lightly, and they freak out. Oh my, you can't do that. And it's like, well, actually I can. It's a multi-use trail.
Yeah. You're bad. That's funny. Poor Nordic skiers worldwide.
Oh man, they're fierce.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I grew up Nordic skiing, and so yeah, it's a little bit, because you can't just be in your like meditative state of mind on your track. It's different than skate skiing. When you're in your track and you're just kind of going and glow, and then you come across like a divot, it's like a divot in the golf course.
Right. Well,
flow, dude.
And what they don't understand is because the areas that they live in down south, there's so many people and you have to kind of separate everything because people can't seem to coexist. Well, up here where we're at, we coexist. We have multi-use trails that people ski, they snowshoe, they bike, they walk their dogs. We have recreational areas where people downhill ski big mountains, and we've got motorized, snow machine or snowmobile and snow bike riding. And we haven't got to the point where it needs to be separated like everywhere else in the world, because we're all able to coexist. We're like, hey, that's a place the skiers use all the time. The Skinners, they'll walk up, they'll hike up, ski down. And so it's like, we have so much terrain. It's like, you know what? We don't need to ride there.
Yeah.
We'll ride out over here. The only place we do like to heckle occasionally, of course, is the heli ski operations, because people pay thousands of dollars to go do these exclusive things. And when they think they're out where no one's ever been, and we pop
Yeah.
up on the snow machine and drink a beer, they kind of get a little ruffled. All in good fun.
So this year also we've got I got a question for you too. Little technical question here about logistics. We've got bike flights that is coming in to help sponsor the Fat Bike Bash. They're coming in as a cash sponsor, and then they're also supporting us with some little swag for the people who participate, and then of course their services. So bike flights, when I've used bike flights in the past, I've had my bike sent to a bike shop. Yes, a bike shop. Because I'm not going to put together my bike myself. Are we going to have a mechanic? Is there a mechanic in town that if we had if we use the airport for a landing spot, like if somebody didn't want to send their bike to a bike shop in Anchorage, pick it up and drive it down, if they had it sent straight to Valdez, which honestly, I don't know why they would, but if they did, do we have a mechanic in town?
No. Not one that I would trust to work on my bike.
Okay. Well,
I might be able to help out with that. I mean, me, I fly all over the United States with my bikes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily my fat bike, which the fat bike would be easier to put together, really. But I just got back from Vancouver Island, mountain biking down there, and I broke my bike down, boxed it up, flew with it on Alaska Airlines, put it back together down there, biked, and broke it back down, flew back up, and
that's awesome.
So it might be something I could help out with because, you don't have to break it down that much to fly. I don't know what bike flight requires, but really these days it's just put the seat down, pull the pedals off, pull the front tire off, which they're all quick release axle, and then pop the handlebars off. You don't necessarily got to pull the stem off, just the handlebars out, and boom, you just got to have the right size bike box or bike carrying. There's a lot of those fancy Evoc and stuff like that have, bike bags and bike carrying, containers.
Yeah. Well, actually, now when you put it that way, I could also help out with. I'm constantly doing stuff like that.
It's super easy.
It's not as much as I thought, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a bike tune-up,
I could do that too.
We may need that. They should be doing that before they come, having their derailleur all adjusted and everything
for sure.
Where it should be,
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I recommended because I think that there are like 2 bike shops that are affiliated with bike flights that are in Alaska. And so I recommend that be the first choice. And then, of course, they had to ask, well, if there's a landing spot in Valdez, where would it be? And so we have it go to the airport and then have to figure it out from there. But I spoke with pro cyclist Catherine Bertine, and she always put together all of her bikes at every single event. So I was like, part of me was just like, humiliating myself a little bit, like, oh gosh, I've never done that. I've always just brought my bike to the bike shop. They took it apart, put it in a box and sent it to a bike shop and they put it together. And so, shame on me. I didn't realize how it would be not really that much work. So,
yeah. Well, when you're into downhill mountain biking and you look at the rental costs, you can bring your own bike for $200.
Yeah.
And, bike rentals like $800 for your trip.
Right.
It's like, and it's not difficult at all.
Awesome. Maybe I'll bring, I bought a fat bike when I got back to Texas.
Yeah, I saw that. Looks like you've been schooling some people up on it. Fatty 101.
Yes. It's
nice
really great teaching bicycle, but I take it on the trails out here too. So
it inspires confidence, especially in people over 40.
What are you talking about?
Just, the people out there.
Those people. Other people. Right. Yes. No, it's been great. I love it. So yeah. I even have studded tires actually, because this bike actually came from Wyoming, and a girl here, she moved here from Wyoming and didn't think that a fat bike would be good on these trails. I have friends that ride the trails with fat bikes, and I've been riding a rigid frame adventure bike. So it's like 2 3/4 inch tires, but the fat bike's got about 4-inch tires. So, I mean, it's so much fun, first of all, and then I brought it out with Ride Like a Girl, mountain biking on the south side of town over here. And they were all like, "Are you riding a fat bike?" And I was like, "Yeah." And, it's just great. It's just fun. It's a conversation piece, and it's so much fun. A little bouncy sometimes because you don't have the suspension, right?
Well, that is your suspension.
Yeah. Yes. Well, right. Yes. The tires. So,
yep.
And these elbows and these knees.
Yep. I actually have a friend down in Colorado, Betsy Williford, and she had sold all her mountain bikes and went completely fat. And every trail she rides, all the big name trails in Colorado and Crested Butte, and she does, races in the winter, but even in the summer, she rides that fat bike 100% of the time. In fact, she has a couple of them, and she loves it. She wouldn't rather do anything else. Some of these races that she's doing where they're doing climbs, people are like climbing with her going, "Oh my God, you're climbing on that fat bike?" And she just smiles. "Yes, I am."
That's
she
awesome.
loves it.
No, they're really the best for sure. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So, I mean, that is the other thing. That's the other big thing, I guess, the big news about, whatever we've got going on. So that's really cool. And then,
Cool.
yeah, right. And then, have to find, so like the whole reason that we have, the different categories in the first place is all for, the medals that we hand out at the end, right? So that's the only reason we really have different categories. Planning on beefing up some promotions in the next few months. So any feedback that you hear, questions or comments or desires or whatever, this year we're going to be in the same parking lot area for both days, so that'll be nice. And we can set up like a little party area or spectator area somewhere over there. If you think that one place is better than another, then I still have the maps that you gave me. And, if you, we can talk about it later, but, we could put one of those up on the website too. I don't think that there's one up there right now. But we can put one up where everything is going to be located at, sort of like a little, spec sheet. So, yeah, that should make it easier, because even the cross country race this year is going to be, you just meet at the Valdez Glacier Lake. So that'll make it a lot easier. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Perfect.
And then that's going to be exciting too, because for the extreme downhill, the people that participate in that are going to get to ride in that giant snowcat. Yep. So that's going to be different if you are not accustomed to riding in a giant snowcat.
Yeah, especially because the bottom portion of that climb in the snowcat is it's pretty steep. I mean, you're climbing up the mountain, and it's, if you've never been in nothing like that, that'll definitely be an interesting adventure. Yes.
Wow. Yep. So that'll be fun. Cool. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you for, being on the podcast and helping me talk up the Valdez Fat Bike Bash. I'm super looking forward to it.
Thanks again for listening to LoTech Tuesdays by LoTech and Wild. The mission and vision of Valdez Adventure Alliance is based in nature therapy. The events and resources provided allow people to find the satisfaction of self-accomplishment through effort, of climbing, of riding bikes, of hiking, of trail building, of immersing in nature. Our objective is to be a resource for people to find deep happiness and healthy outlets for themselves. Thank you for those who sponsor Valdez Adventure Alliance. IMBA, the International Mountain Biking Association, Access Fund, the American Alpine Club. We'd also like to thank the City of Valdez, Alaska, the Fat Mermaid, Bike Flights, Camp, Alyeska Pipeline, CVEA Community Foundation, Sterling, Loa Boots, Raven Alaska, Athletic Brewing, Best Western, Valdez Avalanche Center, and The Prospector. Some 2021 event sponsors we'd like to shout out to also are Tiger Tail, Nix Wax, and Mountain Equipment. Thank you for listening and have a great day.